Okay guys, today I'm gonna show you how to install our steering wheel spacer on a BMW 3 Series E46, like the M3, like our M3, the car which we used to race. The same spacer fits all these cars, the M5, the 5 Series, the X5 and the X3. Here you see pics of the finished job. Here it is on our CSL with MSG gearbox, and here it is how can the spacer be used as an adapter to fit different steering wheels on the 3 Series E46. Okay, let's start by disconnecting the negative terminal of the battery to avoid unwanted warning lights at the end of the procedure, and find a flat screwdriver and use it to pull out the airbag. You have to look for those little holes in the rubber of the steering wheels behind the two spokes. They are two, one for each side, and when you insert the screwdriver in the hole for like half an inch, you will find a elastic spring which acts the disengagement of the airbag unit for each side. When you have the airbag unit in your hands, you have to disconnect the two connectors. First, lift the secure lock that hold the connector in place. Then you can pull out the connectors and free the airbag, which you have to lay in a safe place, far from children. And now you can go ahead by disconnecting the remaining connectors. One is the central, and then there is another one in the right, that white, for the steering wheel buttons, and you may have a third one for the paddle shifters if you have like the SSG or the SMG gearbox. When you have disconnected all the connectors, lose the central bolt and be sure that the steering wheel goes back and forth on the steering column, because after years it may happen that the steering wheel make a sort of glue effect with the steering column, and it may be very hard to pull out. Okay, the steering wheel is out now. Look, the spacer replicate the steering wheel. That it's the hole, the splined hole, and then the hole and the slots to make the wire pass through the steering wheel and the steering wheel spacer. You better remove those two plastic caps. It's easier to insert the spacer if you remove them. Then you simply insert the spacer in the steering column. Okay, it's done. Now it comes the fun part. You have to extend the wires. So first, that's a ground wire which is bolt on the steering wheel, and you have to unbolt that little Torx bolt to make it free. And now you have to pull out the harness from the steering wheel. You have to unclip all the internal. There are many sort of hooks or clips that you have to open to free some wires, and that's not going to be enough. You will have also to loosen the steering wheel button block from the steering wheel to make possible to pull out, to fully pull out the harness which connects the car to the airbag. That harness has to be pulled out from the steering wheel, because you have to extend the ground wire, and it's much easier to do this job if on a table, or not while it is still mounted inside of the steering wheel. So you have to unbolt, unscrew the Torx bolts that hold the steering wheel buttons on the steering wheel, and you have to loosen the steering wheel buttons assembly from the steering wheel. You don't have to remove the buttons at all from the steering wheel. You just have to loosen them to gain that gap. Okay, when you have gained that gap, the harness simply came out. It's very easy. At this point, you will not need to operate on the steering wheel button anymore, so you can reassemble them by simply popping them inside again and screw back tight the two little Torx bolts. Okay, next step is going to be extend that wire. You have to cut and extend it for about 2 inches. Cut, okay. To extend it, this is, you create your own extension wire, and normally to extend the wire I crimp them with that tool. You can even weld them and insulate with a tape or with heat shrink tape. If you are more familiar than me with welding, you can weld and it's gonna be a best looking job. I crimp them because I find it much easier and not that weld friendly. This is the steering wheel button harness, and you can extend it using the jumper wires included in the kit. You first insert the part in the clock spring assembly, then you go closer to the steering wheel spacer with the steering wheel and insert the other part, and at this moment you can reconnect the main connector. You have to stay close to the steering wheel spacer because otherwise you can accidentally pull the wires and disconnect them. Okay, push the connector until you hear the click, and now you can insert the steering wheel in the steering wheel spacer shaft. In while, make the wires gently go across the slot. Don't bend them, don't be sure you don't press them. And at this point, you can start tightening the central bolt. So you're sure that the steering wheel is not going anywhere. And now extend the horn wire by simply connect the extra wire you find in the kit and accommodate all the wires inside the steering wheel as they were before. So they are a bit hidden, and when you're going to insert the airbag, they're not going to be pressed or to interact anyhow with the airbag. To reconnect the airbag, you have first to put back in the two connectors, then to press the secure lock clip, which we have lifted with the screwdriver to unlock the connectors at the beginning of the procedure. You can't make a mistake because there are two connectors with different colors. And to insert the airbag, just pre-align it inside the housing and be sure that the wires are not pressed between the two big hooks on the back, the black hooks on the back of the airbag, which are going to engage on the clip spring which you have disengaged with the screwdriver. Okay, push it, like when you push the horn because you are pissed off to somebody. And when it's correctly in, you can push the horn normally. The airbag is going to have the same mobility as before. And now you finish, you're done. You can reconnect the negative terminal of the battery and make a drive to ensure that everything works properly as before, with no working lights. Okay, you're done guys. Have fun with our spacer and let's see each other to the next video.